They called me the charity case before I even sat down. I heard it from across the table, not whispered, but clear enough to sting. The chandelier light caught every smirk, every glass raised in pretend grace. Monica leaned back in her chair, voice sweet and sharp. "This table's for real family, not for foster beggars." Laughter rippled through the restaurant, polished and cruel. I felt my face heat, but my hands stayed still. Then the waiter came laying a $2,900 bill in front of me like a dare. I slid my card across the linen one quiet motion that changed everything. People said I was lucky. After my parents died in a car crash, I wasn't sent to a foster home. I was taken in by family friends Linda and Charles Hale. They smiled through every interview, told neighbors they were doing the right thing. And for a while, I believed them. I was 5 too small to notice the difference between kindness and charity. They gave me a tiny room at the end of the hall, painted pale yellow, like it might make up for the size. I got Monica's old clothes, Ethan's cracked textbooks, and a reminder that I should be grateful. "You're part of this family now," Linda would say, her voice tight with virtue. "Remember we saved you." Even then, I understood it wasn't love, it was a favor they never let me forget. The Hale house always looked perfect from the outside. White shutters rose, bushes trimmed to military precision, a driveway where Charles's luxury cars gleamed under morning light. Inside, though, the air was stiff. Every compliment had a price. Every family dinner felt like a performance. They prayed before meals, thanked God for blessings, then spent the rest of the evening measuring who deserved them more. Monica, 5 years older, was the star they built their world around. She had straight-A grades designer shoes and a laugh that could flip from charming to cruel in a heartbeat. Ethan, the middle child, followed her like a shadow. And me, I was the quiet one at the far end of the table, careful not to scrape my fork too loud. The only person who treated me like I belonged was Margaret Hale, Charles's mother. She was in her 70s when I met her, sharp as glass and twice as clear. She built Hale and Cumbie Pharmaceuticals from nothing, made her first million before Linda finished college. But she never acted like money made her better. She'd show up on Sundays with a box of pastries and that piercing, assessing look. "You read much, Violet?" she asked me once. I nodded. Good. People who read learn how to survive quiet rooms. She was the only one who noticed the quiet. By the time I turned 28, I'd moved into a small apartment downtown and started my own design studio. It wasn't much, one desk, one computer, a view of a brick wall, but it was mine. I'd stopped waiting for the Hale family to see me. Still, I kept visiting Margaret. She'd call me her sensible granddaughter, and for a few hours, her living room felt like safety. Then Monica announced her celebration dinner, a victory party for a business deal. She posted the invite in the family group chat, the one I was still somehow in. "Everyone's coming," she wrote. The photo attached showed a glittering restaurant and a caption, "Family only." I stared at it for a long time, thumb hovering over my phone. Then I typed, "Should I still come?" and hit send. No one replied. The silence in that group chat stretched for days. No response, not even a polite emoji. Just seen. I told myself it didn't matter that I'd gotten used to being invisible. But every time my phone buzzed, a small part of me hoped it would be them, saying something kind. Something normal. It never was. 3 nights before the dinner, Linda called not to invite me, but to remind me about the dress code. "Monica's booked a private dining hall," she said, cheerful in that rehearsed way of hers. "Everyone's wearing black and gold. You'll want to look presentable." Presentable. The same word she used when she made me redo my hair for church as a child. I said I'd be there. Her relief was audible, as if avoiding embarrassment was all that mattered. When I hung up, I stood by the window watching snow collect on the streetlights. Margaret had told me once that snow has 2 faces, soft when it falls, deadly when it piles. I understood that better now. The next day, I stopped by Margaret's home. She was sitting by the fireplace, a thick shawl around her shoulders, a mug of tea in hand. "You're quiet," she said without looking up. I told her about the dinner. She didn't ask if I wanted to go. She just nodded slowly. "Let them show you who they are," she murmured. "Sometimes that's the only gift they can give." Her words stayed with me. The night before the dinner, Monica's posts started flooding my feed, photos of gift bags, champagne bottles, designer heels lined in rows. Her caption read, "Hard work pays off." Blessed to celebrate with the best family ever. My stomach tightened. The best family ever. I almost texted her to cancel to say I was busy, but I didn't. Instead, I took out the black dress I'd bought on clearance last year. I ironed it, repaired a loose hem, and laid it across my bed. Then I took my old leather bag, the same one I'd carried since college, and slipped in a simple silver bracelet Margaret had given me years ago. For luck, she'd said. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every memory came back birthday candles I wasn't allowed to blow out holidays, where my name was forgotten on gift tags. By morning, the decision felt final. I'm going, I whispered to my reflection. Not for them, for me. The restaurant glowed like it was built to impress. Warm, light white linen, the faint scent of truffle oil in the air. I arrived a few minutes early, clutching my small purse tighter than I meant to. A hostess smiled politely. "Party for Hale?" she asked. I nodded. When I reached the table, they were already there. Monica in gold silk, Ethan scrolling his phone, Linda and Charles laughing too loud. For a second, no one looked up. Then Monica turned her lips, curving just enough to sting. "Oh, Violet, you made it," she said, as if surprised I'd found the courage. "Of course," I answered, keeping my voice calm. "Wouldn't miss it." The hostess tried to add a chair, but Monica stopped her. "It's okay. She can sit at the end." I felt the heat rise up my neck. Margaret was the only one who objected. "No," she said firmly. "She'll sit next to me." Her tone silenced everyone. I smiled at her, grateful, and took my seat. Dinner began. Dishes arrived like choreography, lobster tails, filet mignon, glasses of wine I didn't order. I kept quiet, cutting my food into small, forgettable pieces. Across the table, Monica launched into a speech about her big deal, how she'd closed a partnership worth millions. Charles beamed proud. Linda dabbed her lips, saying, "That's our girl." When there was a pause, I spoke. Actually, I began softly. I just signed my biggest client yet, a national campaign. The words hung in the air, fragile but real. I waited for a simple, "That's great." Instead, Linda smiled without looking at me. "That's nice, dear," she said, turning to Monica again. "Now tell us more about your deal." The laughter that followed wasn't loud, but it was enough. The same tone, the same dismissal I'd grown up with. I focused on Margaret. She was quiet, her fork, untouched eyes moving from face to face. Her jaw tightened, though she said nothing. When dessert arrived, Monica raised her glass. "To family, real family," she said, staring directly at me. The others echoed, "To family." My throat burned. I took a sip of water, hands steady, even as my heart hammered. Somewhere inside, something finally shifted. Not a snap, but a slow, certain break. "I'm fine," I whispered to myself. Just fine. The laughter around the table didn't sound human anymore. It was the sharp, empty kind people use to prove they belong. I stared at my glass, watching the reflection of the chandelier ripple across the water. Then Monica's voice cut through it again, sweet and venomous. "This table's for real family, not for foster beggars." The room went quiet for half a breath, then exploded with chuckles and smirks. Even Linda laughed the same high, nervous sound she used when pretending everything was fine. Charles didn't look at me. Ethan mumbled something under his breath, but I couldn't make it out. My cheeks burned, but I kept my head high. My voice didn't work, and maybe that was for the best. I pressed my napkin into my lap, careful, deliberate. Every muscle in my body screamed to leave, but leaving would mean they'd won. The waiter came by with a tight smile. "Will there be anything else?" Monica waved her hand. "Just the check, please." He returned a moment later and placed the leather folder in front of me. I blinked, thinking it was a mistake. Then Monica leaned forward, smiling wide enough for the whole restaurant to see. "You don't mind, right? Think of it as a thank you for everything we've done for you." The words hit like a slap. I looked down. The total, $2,900, nearly a month of my rent. My fingers trembled as I traced the number. No one spoke. No one stopped her. I could have said no. I could have walked out. But instead, I pulled out my card. The plastic felt cold in my palm. The waiter hesitated, glancing between us, sensing something wrong. I nodded. When the machine beeped, it echoed in my chest. One sharp sound, one transaction for 2 decades of humiliation. I set the pen down, slid the folder back, and folded my napkin over my empty plate. "All done," I said quietly. For a few seconds, it was completely still, just forks clinking in the distance, soft jazz from the speakers. Then out of nowhere, Margaret pushed back her chair. The screech of wood against marble turned every head. "I'm done?" she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. Linda laughed uneasily. "Mother, don't be dramatic." Margaret raised a hand. "No, I've watched this circus long enough." Her eyes went straight to Monica. "You, your father, your mother, you've all forgotten what decency looks like." Monica blinked, thrown off. "What are you talking about? We were just joking." "Joking?" Margaret's voice hardened. "You humiliate this girl, my granddaughter, in public, and for what?" To feel powerful for one more dinner, the color drained from Monica's face. "She's not your granddaughter." Margaret straightened her shoulders. "You're wrong. She's the only one who's ever acted like family." The table froze. Charles reached for his glass, missed it, and set his hand flat against the table instead. Linda tried to laugh again, but it broke halfway out. "I have cancer," Margaret said simply. "Stage 4. I have 6 months." The silence hit like thunder. Monica's mouth fell open. "Mom, no, save it." Margaret interrupted. "I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here for truth. I changed my will last week." She turned to me. "Violet inherits everything." The words didn't sink in at first. I thought I'd misheard. But when I looked at her, she was steady, certain. Monica shot to her feet. "You can't do that. That money belongs to this family." "Family." Margaret's eyes burned. "You mean the same people who stole $700,000 from a child's trust fund?" Linda's fork clattered to the table. "Mother, please, I found the records," Margaret continued. "Every cent Violet's parents left for her, gone. Spent on vacations, private school, new cars. You used her pain as your down payment." Charles slammed his palm down. "You don't understand how expensive. I understand perfectly," she cut in. "You took what wasn't yours." I sat frozen, heart racing. I hadn't known about the trust fund, hadn't known about any of it. The air thickened. Monica's lipstick trembled at the corners. Ethan stared down at his plate, silent for once. Margaret looked at me again. "Take me home, Violet." That broke the spell. Monica grabbed my arm. "You did this," she hissed. "You turned her against us." I pulled away, my voice low but clear. I didn't have to. "You did that yourself," she glared, shaking. "We'll challenge it. We'll go to court. You'll get nothing. Then I'll see you there," I said. I helped Margaret to her feet. Her hand felt fragile but steady in mine. We walked past the stunned table, past the staring faces of strangers. The music seemed to fade. Outside, the night air was cold, sharp, honest. Margaret squeezed my hand. "I should have done this years ago," she said softly. Inside, through the window, I could still see them. Monica red-faced and shouting, Linda holding her head, Charles waving for the waiter as if money could glue their dignity back together. I didn't feel triumphant. Not yet, just clean, empty in a way that finally made room for peace. Later that week, the news broke. Headlines screamed, "Heiress cuts off. Family leaves fortune to foster daughter." Reporters swarmed. Talk shows debated whether I'd manipulated her. I stayed silent. Margaret didn't. She held a press conference sitting tall beside her lawyer. "I am of sound mind," she declared, "and I'm tired of watching good hearts punished for existing." The cameras flashed. She handed out folders, bank statements, trust fund records, proof of every stolen cent. And then she played the video from the restaurant. Monica's voice echoed across the speakers. "This table's for real family, not for foster beggars." The room went dead silent. Margaret looked into the cameras. This is what cruelty sounds like when it thinks no one is listening. As if on cue, the doors burst open. Monica stormed in, mascara-streaked voice shaking. "She's lying. Violet used her. We raised that girl out of pity. She owes us." Reporters gasped. Cameras turned. Margaret tilted her head. "Did you just say she owes you? I mean, she..." Monica stammered, realizing too late. The lawyer leaned forward. "You just admitted it. On record. The clip hit the internet before nightfall. 20 million views by morning. The comments weren't kind. Imagine saying that on camera. Justice served in real time. By the time the trial came, public opinion had already chosen sides. The judge ruled the will valid, the trust fund stolen, the restitution owed. Margaret's decision stood. I didn't celebrate. I just sat beside her in the courtroom as she squeezed my hand again, whispering, "You see, silence works when truth is loud enough." A month later, she was gone. At her funeral, I placed a single white rose on her casket, the same color as the tablecloth from that night. For a moment, I closed my eyes and heard that same sharp beep from the credit card machine, but this time it didn't sting. It sounded like a door closing and another one opening. The world moved fast after the verdict, but I didn't. I stayed in Margaret's house, the one with the wide porch and the lemon trees she loved. It felt strange at first, living in silence that didn't hurt. The air smelled like her perfume and old books. Every morning I made tea the way she did, 2 sugars, no milk. Charles was sentenced to 3 years for financial fraud. Linda sold their house to cover legal fees, then vanished from the city pages. Ethan's loan surfaced. His fiancée left. Monica lost her business after that viral clip became an internet cautionary tale. Every brand cut ties overnight. Reporters tried to get a statement from me. I never gave one. There was nothing left to say. Justice, once it arrives, doesn't need an encore. I focused on work, then on something bigger. Using part of the inheritance, I started the Margaret Foundation, a program for foster and adopted kids who'd been cheated or silenced. We funded lawyers, therapy, tuition, everything I once needed but never had. The first check I signed felt heavier than money. It felt like redemption. A year later, an application came across my desk, Monica Hale requesting assistance for financial hardship and mental health support. I read every word. She wrote that she'd lost everything, that she was sorry, that she wanted a second chance. For a moment, I thought about approving it. Then I remembered her voice at that table, how the laughter felt slicing through me like glass. I stamped the file, denied, and slid it aside. Some victories are quiet. Mine was. That night, I lit a candle for Margaret and whispered, "We did it." The flame flickered, once steady and bright, like she'd heard me. I visit her grave every Sunday. The grass grows fast there, soft against the marble, and the city noise fades just enough to think. I tell her about the foundation, about the kids we've helped, 200 and counting. Sometimes I imagine her smiling, that small knowing smile, the one that meant she'd already seen the ending before I lived it. People still ask if I forgave them. I tell them forgiveness isn't freedom, boundaries are. Family isn't who raised you. It's who never made you pay for a seat at the table. If you've ever had to fight to be seen, share your story in the comments. And hit subscribe. Someone out there might need to hear yours next.